Warning. Actonville TV disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the host, authors, and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any religious affiliation.
Vanakkam, Namaste, Namaskaram, Sairam, Jai Shri Ram, Swamiye Saranammayyappa, Goinda, Goinda, Govinda. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. You're currently streaming live with us in Lanesia South on Actonville TV. This is the Journey Show, the show about exploring Hinduism as a whole. I'm your host, Kimera, Heeralal, and if you'd like to interact with us in studio today, please do so by commenting at the bottom of the screen, or if you want to hashtag any of your views anonymously, you're welcome to do so by commenting and sending our WhatsApp line, through our WhatsApp line rather, and interact with us. Alright, welcome to the show, everyone. As I know signal is bad this evening around the country, but let's hope the signal will hold in order for us to complete and do our teachings here on the Journey Show. Alright, so everybody knows we are still continuing with Geeta Week, educating about Geeta Week, as we are educating everyone on the Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter. Today is what we refer to as part 5 of the Journey Show, part 5 of the Geeta Week. This is now episode 84 on the Journey Show, everyone, doing our teachings, yes? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, as we always open the show with Lord Ganesha, knowing in Hinduism you cannot do anything without surpassing Lord Ganesha himself. Let's do that, and we have Edward ready from Lanesia South helping us praise Lord Ganesha this evening. Check him out.
பெரியோர்களே, தாய்மார்களே, எல்லாருக்கும் என் அன்புள்ள வணக்கம். My humble greetings to one and all. Our opening invocation to Lord Ganesha to commence the program. வேடும் தன்முகமாகி வினை தீக்கும் திருக்கரங்கள், வேடும் தன்முகமாகி வினை தீக்கும் திருக்கரங்கள், வாழ்விக்கும் திருவயிறே விக்னேசன் திருத்தோட்டம், வாழ்விக்கும் திருவயிறே விக்னேசன் திருத்தோட்டம், கணநாதா கணீசா கணநாதா மழுபவனே ஆற்றில் அருளும் திருளும் பொருளும் வெள்ளி கொள்ள தருபவனே அழுகும் முள்ளும் இருக்கும் மலரும் சூட்டி கொண்டு மழுபவனே ஆற்றில் அருளும் திருளும் பொருளும் வெள்ளி கொள்ள தருபவனே சித்தி கணபதி புத்தி கணபதி எத்தனை வடிவம் பெற்றவனே சித்தி கணபதி புத்தி கணபதி எத்தனை வடிவம் பெற்றவனே வருவாயே கணநாதா அருள்வாயே குணநாதா வருவாயே கணநாதா அருள்வாயே குணநாதா வீழும் தன்முகமாகி வினை தீக்கும் திருக்கரங்கள் வீழும் தன்முகமாகி வினை தீக்கும் திருக்கரங்கள் வாழ்விக்கும் திருவயிறே விக்னேசன் திருத்தோட்டம் வாழ்விக்கும் திருவயிறே விக்னேசன் திருத்தோட்டம் கணநாதா கணேசா கணநாதா கணேசா சகுத்தி பூஜை செய்தால் நற்பல தந்து அருள்வாரே நாளும் பொழுதும் நம்பிக்கை வைத்தால் சீரும் சிறுப்பும் தருவாரே நாயகன் சகுத்தி பூஜை செய்தால் நற்பல தந்து அருள்வாரே நாளும் பொழுதும் நம்பிக்கை வைத்தால் சீரும் சிறுப்பும் தருவாரே வீர கணபதி வெற்றி கணபதி எத்தனை வடிவம் பெற்றவனே கணபதி வெற்றி கணபதி எத்தனை வடிவம் பெற்றவனே வருவாயே கணநாதா அருள்வாயே குணநாதா வருவாயே கணநாதா அருள்வாயே குணநாதா வீழும் தன்முகமாகி வினை தீக்கும் திருக்கரங்கள் வீழும் தன்முகமாகி வினை தீக்கும் திருக்கரங்கள் வாழ்விக்கும் திருவயிறே விக்னேசன் திருத்தோட்டம் வாழ்விக்கும் திருவயிறே விக்னேசன் திருத்தோட்டம் கணநாதா கணேசா கணநாதா கணேசா
Jai Ganesha! Very big thank you to Edward Reddy for helping us surpass Lord Ganesha as we opened up the show. Mr. Reddy, I love you to bits. Oh my God, you are so talented. You are such a legend to all of our Hindu South Africans. Love you, Uncle Reddy. Uncle Edward. Alright, Mr. Reddy, that was a beautiful delivery of praising Lord Ganesha. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone joining us on YouTube. Coming in on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, is Vishnu Devan Murli. Namaskaram, Varakam, Namaste. Wow, very great. Edward Reddy, love his renditions and that of his family. Nishi Heeralal coming in on YouTube. Namaste, Kimera. Namaste. So good to see Edward Anna. Edward Reddy, superstar. Yes, he is, everyone. Thank you so much for that. Edward Reddy, I hope you, well, if you are feeling well, if you didn't catch a show, we're going to clip a few snippets of YouTube and send it to you via WhatsApp. I hope you enjoyed it, really I do. Alright, let's get back to our teachings as we are talking about chapter 5 in the Bhagavad Gita, and it is Gita week, ladies and gentlemen. This is part 5 on Actonville TV, and this is episode 84 if you need to backtrack on this somewhere or make a note of it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's get straight into it as we are discussing chapter 5 Bhagavad Gita with Dr. P.K. Maestri.
Good evening to the Actonville TV viewers. Again, we are on the Geeta week, and the Geeta week started on the 31st of August and it finishes tomorrow. So between the 6th and the 7th of September 2023 is the Geeta week. The Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses of Hindu scripture, which is part of the Mahabharata, chapters 23 to 40. The Gita and the Mahabharata is attributed to sage Vyasa, who narrated it to Lord Ganesha, who scribed it for this task. The Gita is the word of God. It's a divine song. It's a celestial song. As we went through the Gita week, we said that chapter 1 was observing the armies in the battlefield of the Kurukshetra war. Chapter 2 was the contents of the Gita summarized. Chapter 3 was Karma Yoga. Chapter 4 was transcendental knowledge. That means ordinary knowledge is the knowledge of objects. And today is the path of renunciation, which is the path of work in devotion. So in this chapter, Sri Krishna, the avatar of Lord Vishnu, compares the path of renunciation of actions with the path of work in devotion. He says, we can choose either of the two paths, as both leads us to the same destination. So it's the path of renunciation of actions and the path of work in devotion. So Arjuna asked Krishna whether the path of renunciation or the path of action is better for him. Krishna replies that both paths are good, but the path of Karma Yoga is more direct. Karma Yoga, the path of renunciation of actions, that is one yoga, and the other one, the Karma Yoga, is the path of work in devotion. He says that Krishna replies that both the paths are good, but that the path of Karma Yoga is more direct. The path of renunciation is the path of action. Both lead to the self if practiced deeply. Both the wise sage and the doer of Karma Yoga practice action, whether it be action in the battle or action of the mind, in studying scriptures without attachment to the results. Very important. Studying of the scriptures without attachment to the result. Ignorance of the self is what causes men to act badly. Krishna insists that wise men regard all beings as equal, understanding that the self at the core of all things is the same, only clothed in different bodies. So the supreme state that is attained by means of this type of yoga, which is the path of renunciation of action, is also attained by working in devotion. Hence, those who see these different yogas to be identical truly see things as they are. Those steadfast in Karma Yoga, that is the path of renunciation of action, always think, I am not the doer. Even while engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, excreting, grasping and opening or closing the eyes. Those whose intellect is fixed in God, who are completely absorbed in God, with firm faith in Him as the supreme goal, such persons quickly reach the state from which there is no return, their sins having dispelled by the light of their knowledge. So that means yoga is a spiritual and ascetic discipline that is breath control and exercise of posture. Then he reminded Arjuna that his sole duty as a warrior was to fight the war on the side of the righteousness. But since Karma binds one to the fruits of actions. Sri Krishna encouraged Arjuna to dedicate the fruits of his work to God. All what you do is dedicated to God. His actions will then become united with God through work. This chapter mixes the concept of renunciation with the previously discussed idea of knowledge yoga path. Because both ideas are used relatively interchangeably, here it can be assumed that the path of renunciation is also the path of Sankhya Yoga, or the yoga of wisdom and knowledge. Krishna says that both are legitimate paths to the truth and the true self. In devoting oneself to these paths, one can ultimately achieve both. The practices of meditating, renouncing worldly pleasures, and studying the scriptures are actions that lead to the wisdom of understanding the true self and to liberation from suffering. The path of Karma Yoga, again, Karma Yoga is the renunciation through knowledge, also leads to the same wisdom. Krishna explains that in this way, the two paths lead to the same place and involve both actions and gaining understanding. The difference is that people are led by the circumstances of birth to seek the self primarily through renunciation or knowledge, and some, like Arjuna, are meant to seek it through the yoga or action. As I said, yoga is the meditative or spiritual exercises. The self is an essential being that distinguishes them from others. It's a reflective or action. A renouncing of action did not mean giving up the physical performance of actions. It meant renouncing the sense of doership, the sense that I am doing something. In order to get to the stage, one has to have purified one's mind completely of desires. In that regard, performing actions in the spirit of yoga was the correct course of action for Arjuna, since he still harbored desires. As one continues to dedicate the results of actions to Ishvara, we said yesterday, Ishvara can be Brahman or can be Shiva, one's sense of enjoymentship and doership automatically diminishes. Next, Sri Krishna expounded upon the vision of the realized seeker. He provided a detailed illustration of the body, mind, and intellect functioning on their own, including the acts of perception and intellect's response to stimuli. All these acts in reality happens without the involvement of I. The illustration that I resides in the city of the 9 gates was given to further drive home the point. I said city of the 9 gates. City of the 9 gates, which is also called Navadurapura, it is the city of the 9 gates representing the male human body. That's the 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, the mouth, anus, and your genitals. That is the city of the 9 gates. Another aspect of the realized seeker's vision is Samadrikshti. What is Samadrikshti? It's the eye movements looking straight without the eyelashes moving. It describes God looking straight with movements, benevolence. Not only that, he also sees the same eternal essence in positive and negative experiences. He holds the conviction that these defects or modifications are part of the Prakriti. What is that? The nature. He does not view these defects as part of the eternal essence, since the external essence is ever perfect. Then Sri Krishna explained that just like the eternal essence in the body does not cause action, so too does the external essence of the cosmic level not cause action. Neither does the eternal essence connect results to actions, nor does it dole out sin. All these transactions happen inside nature. Shlokas. Shloka is to stand, but it refers to the two-syllable verses in the Geeta. That is called shloka. So in closing shlokas of the 5th chapter, Sri Krishna slowly begins pointing us towards meditation. Meditation is the only way for the seeker to get fully established in the eternal essence. The primary goal has to be the realization of the eternal essence and nothing else. This thirst is needed. Next, Krishna informs us that it is the sense contacts that are obstacles to meditation. Our mind rushes out due to the urges, generated desires and anger. Only by controlling this urge, we can progress towards meditation. Lastly, Sri Krishna elaborates on the state of a liberated seeker. Such a seeker has discovered the infinite joy within himself. He finds no need to rush outside into the world for joy and bliss. Namaste. I thank you.
Dr. P.K. Main Street, everybody. Thank you so much, Doctor, for helping us with your research and your work on Chapter 5. We have a bit of a better understanding, so thank you so much. All right, we've got Vandana coming up next. Vandana Nare from Winchester Hills, Johannesburg, with Ekabar Bole Bandari. Check it out.
गोकुल में आ गए, गोकुल में आ गए। ऐसा सजा दे मुझको कोई न जाने इस राज को, ऐसा सजा दे मुझको, ऐसा सजा दे मुझको कोई न जाने इस राज को। मैं हूँ सहेली तेरी ऐसा बताना ब्रिजराज को। लगा के बिंदिया पहन के सारी, लगा के बिंदिया पहन के सारी, चाल चले मत वाली गोकुल में आ गए, गोकुल में आ गए। एक बार बोले भंडारी बनकर ब्रिज की नारी, गोकुल में आ गए, गोकुल में आ गए। पार्वती ने मना किया पर ना माने त्रिपुरारी, गोकुल में आ गए, गोकुल में आ गए। देखा मोहन ने जब तो समझ गए वो सारी बात रे। देखा मोहन ने जब तो, देखा मोहन ने जब तो समझ गए वो सारी बात रे। ऐसी बजाई बंसी सुध बुध भोले भोलेनाथ रे। खिसक गई जब सर से सारी, खिसक गई जब सर से सारी, मुस्कुराई गिरधारी, गोकुल में आ गए, गोकुल में आ गए। एक बार बोले भंडारी बनकर ब्रिज की नारी, गोकुल में आ गए, गोकुल में आ गए। पार्वती ने मना किया पर ना माने त्रिपुरारी, गोकुल में आ गए, गोकुल में आ गए।
Hare Hare Mahadev. Thank you so much, Vandana Naren from Winchester Hills in Johannesburg, delivering for us a beautiful praise and worship to Lord Shiva himself. Thank you so much, darling. It was a beautiful delivery and a wonderful voice with the Ekabar Bole Bandari. Thank you so much. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will jump to London's views, opinions, and wisdom, which we all love from Shashi Gusain. But before we do, let's see lots of love coming in through our Facebook and our YouTube. Basil Wesley James, ladies and gentlemen, coming in through Facebook, saying good evening, family. Good evening, Mr. James. Thank you for joining the show. It's always nice to see you. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you guys here. Well, when we come back, Shashi Gusain standing by in London for us straight after this commercial break. Vanakkam, Namaste, Namaskaram, Sairam, Jai Shri Ram, Swami Saranammayappa, Goinda, Goinda, Govinda. Welcome back, everybody, for those of you who just joined us. Alright, so as we kicking it back into our teachings on the Journey show, as this show is about exploring Hinduism, ladies and gentlemen. Now, for those of you who are late, we are educating people about the Bhagavad Gita, as it is Gita Week here on Actonville TV. And this is part 5 of the Gita Week, and episode 84, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to backtrack the other chapters or the other parts of Gita Week, you're welcome to do so and click on the episodes before the show. Alright, so we're going to London, meeting up with Shashi Gusain all the way in London. She's discussing Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, ladies and gentlemen, if you know it as that. Well, let's go there and check out how she explains chapter 5 for you to, well, listen, understand, and actually live by the book. Check it out.
Namaste, I'm Shashi Gosai. So now we're on to chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 4, we saw Lord Krishna talk about the knowledge. And he referred to this wise man whose karmas are burnt by this fire of knowledge. But at this point, Arjuna still wants to run away from the battle. He just doesn't want to fight his relatives. And although Krishnaji had made it very clear that he can't run away from action, he's hankering on to this hope that there's this thing he called renunciation, that maybe he can just give up everything and, like how we imagine, go up in the mountains and in an ashram and just contemplate. But Krishnaji said that wasn't his role, that wasn't the path he had to take. So with this interpretation in mind, Arjuna wanted to know which of the two paths is better. Is it the renunciation or the work in devotion? If renunciation in action was better, Arjuna could just go away and go into this contemplation and gain self-realization. But a teacher always takes into account the stage of a student's life, of what they are capable of and what is the best path for them, best teaching for them. So Sri Krishna ji, who's a teacher, replies to Arjuna, who's the student, that for someone with Arjuna's capabilities, the yoga of action is much better than the renunciation of action, or what we call the karma of sannyasa. So we'll talk about that a bit later, but at the moment let's talk about Karma Yoga. That's the path that Krishna ji has advised Arjuna to take. Like Arjuna, we are also tempted to run away from life when it becomes too stressful. So Sri Krishna ji looked at Arjuna's mental makeup, which sometimes happens to us, and advised that the path of action or Karma Yoga is the best for not only him, but most of us normal people, normal mortals, of how we can live life. It's very difficult for us to go into the karma of sannyasa till we have mastered this technique. And this is how he actually teaches us of how to get on with life. So let's see how he does this. So during the time of Mahabharata, and indeed today, we thought the word renounce means to just go away, as we just mentioned. But Krishna ji says renouncing means the renouncing of the ego, the desires, and not renouncing our world, our action, our being. Is just getting rid of our desires. That's the meaning of renunciation, which he then elaborates a little bit more in the following shlokas. In this regard, Sri Krishna ji says we have to be free from 3 qualities before we can renounce. And these are hatred or anger, expectation of the future, or duality, which is likings or dislikings. Once we've renounced these 3 qualities, only then are we prepared to go to the next stage called the Karam Sannyasa. And that is a minimizing of all actions other than to actually gain knowledge, the self-knowledge. So all other actions are reduced to just living, just being, but contemplating and getting to know the self-realization. So this is what Krishna ji will go on for the next lesson. But at the moment, he's trying to get us out of this I feeling and get in connection with the higher date. So in both cases of Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyasa, the goal of liberation cannot be achieved unless we have one key ingredient, and that is the knowledge. So Lord Krishna ji says that unless we are alert all the time of our desires and we let go of all the results, we cannot achieve this. We cannot even get to step 1. So this is how we have to start training our mind. So Krishna ji's already listed all the organs and how they work all the time in our previous chapter. But Arjuna says, what about the thoughts? The thoughts are going there all the time. And Krishna ji says, yes, that is life, that is nature, that is Prakriti, that's part of us. Thoughts will be there, but we have to be very mindful of those thoughts. And we have to let go of the desires, the selfish desires. We have to start looking at what the thoughts are, the quality of thoughts, as we saw in the previous chapter. And this is something that is instilled in every chapter to get into us, to look at our thoughts all the time. So these selfish thoughts are what we call the ego. They do get reduced over a period of time with practice. And the one who realizes the I, it's not me doing it, it's not the ego, but it is the essence, the eternal essence within us that is performing the actions, and we are only what we call the spectators. Things are happening in the body, in our mind, and we have to act accordingly. It's when we react badly, that is where the problems start. That's where the sorrows are. So that's another very important lesson that Krishna ji has told us. Krishna ji actually identifies 4 types of attachments. For example, for a musician, the first attachment is action, meaning I will sing a song only in my way. Secondly, result of the action. I want a reward for singing the song. Thirdly, the sense of ownership. I am singing. And fourthly, the sense of non-doership. By not singing the song, I'm the non-singer of the song. A double negation. So therefore, the Karma Yogi strives to transcend these 4 attachments, 4 levels of attachment, by offering all the actions, the results, the doership or the non-doership to Ishvara. So the results are given to Ishvara, although the actions are done by the self, by the eternal essence. Sri Krishna ji goes on to say that the Karma Yogi has this constant thought that all the body, intellect, senses are actually property of the Ishvara. They are his property. And therefore all the work that we do has to be for the benefit of Ishvara and not for our own ego. So when everything belongs to him, we dedicate our work to him. We do not take ownership, because that would be just feeding our own ego. Another very, very important aspect of Hinduism, that it's not us, it is we are doing for the whole nature, Prakriti and the higher deities. The Geeta teaches us that the body, mind, intellect, senses are not really ours. But due to our conditioning and the environment we are in, we're led to believe that everything belongs to us. And when we begin to do things for their benefit, meaning our own senses, for example, the tongue likes certain tastes, we start overeating. And this feeds our ego. It actually feeds and gives very negative results. So we're not really doing it for our own good. We are overdoing it just to please our senses. And this is where modern life lets us down. It's just overdoing of everything. So what happens to this Karma Yogi who's continually dedicating all his actions to Ishvara? Well, what happens is his mind slowly becomes devoid of selfish desires. It clears it, and all this mental noise that's going on in the background just quietens. So you can see how addictive that is over a period of time, where you are really letting go of everything that is not really important to your body. So the end result is that the mind is purified of all desires. And the purification of this mind leaves the Karma Yogi closer to self-realization. The easiest way to gauge our progress in Karma Yoga is to see what's going on in our mind. If we are still reacting to everything that's happening around us, that means we are attached to the result. And this is something that means that the ego is getting strong. That means the desire is still there for good or bad, and that is actually our ego. So things are happening anyway, and when we are reacting very badly, this is where our whole mental makeup disintegrates. And this is something that we are actually trying to get rid of, and to follow this rule so that we get self-realization that we have to stay strong. So the enlightened seeker knows that he is the eternal essence in the body, separate from the actual physical body. And Krishna ji calls the body the city of 9 gates. And how he's done that is 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, the mouth, the anus, and the genital opening are what he calls the 9 gates to the human body. So this is just a metaphorical representation. The eternal essence is there, is the body, and these are the entrances to the body. Krishna ji says that as long as we are operating with the identifications of the body, we are no different to any animal. We haven't really transcended to a more spiritual, more enlightened human being. He likens the dispelling of ignorance to the dispelling of darkness by the sun. The light of the sun doesn't create anything new, but it brings to light something that's already there. And this is something that we have to do. The whole knowledge is within us. We just need that light to shine on it, to bring it out. And this is another very fundamental point made, that we are all complete within ourselves. We just have to be shown the way. The central theme of Geeta is delusion. And delusion is nothing but our own identification with our own body, mind and intellect. And all our efforts should be by just getting rid of this ignorance through the correct knowledge. And this is what Krishna ji goes on to say. There will always be one aspect of our life which is not perfect. For example, health, family, friends, job, house. And we are looking for perfection in an imperfect world. And this is something that gives us a roller coaster of emotions, sorrow, joy for everything that goes wrong in our lives. And this is what causes the imbalance that we have to correct ourselves. Sri Krishna ji illustrates the personality of the seeker, whose aspiration for the eternal essence is so great, so intense, that his whole personality resonates with this eternal essence. His mind, intellect, conviction, goal, they're all aligned with his eternal essence. It's like a true musician. A true musician will tell you that when you breathe, eat, sleep, walk, talk, music, you are a true musician. That statement reveals the thirst of the person who wants to attain the ultimate goal. So once he gains a knowledge of the eternal essence, all dualities are the same. Whether it's joy, sorrow, love, hate, friends, enemies, they're all the same. So Arjuna asks, how can you look at a friend and an enemy in the same light? And Krishna ji says, it's the personality that has the defect, not the eternal essence itself, which is perfect. It's perfect for everyone. Sri Krishna ji says that it is possible to get the eternal essence here and now. We don't have to wait for another birth. The Karam Yogi clears and purifies his mind and makes it very steady and harmonious, ready to meditate on the eternal essence. A wise person knows that in every situation, no matter how good or bad, is part of nature and you cannot change it. And all these elements are working together in what we call Prakriti in multiple layers, multiple configurations. And things are going to be happening all the time. And we have to just stay firm and strong. A wise person recognizes that in every situation, there is good and bad, ups and downs. And this is part of nature, or what we call the Prakriti, which works in so many different configurations, in just so many forces working on it, that things are changing all the time. For example, if you are in a boat, you will see all the ups and downs of the sea. But if we're standing on a rock in the middle of the sea, we just see these changes happening, we don't let it affect us. So Sri Krishna ji says we should be like that rock. We should see everything that's happening around us as though it's just forces working. And we should not get swayed by them. We should not be going up and down, jumping with each situation. The reason why the realized seekers become so unperturbed is because they realize the eternal essence is stable and firm. They are called Sthiti Pranya. They are free from the delusion of doership. So initially when you get this knowledge, it's very much on the surface. You have these brief moments into our own evil intellect. But with practice, this is something that you can attain. It's just this constant looking into our thoughts. What we call is internal inspection all the time. And this is something that we have to strive throughout our lives. The Lord then starts turning us into the topic of meditation. turning oneself inwards, away from the sense objects of the world. However, when we introspect, when we go within ourselves, we realize that the happiness is within us. For example, when we taste food or we see something, it's so fleeting, it just comes and goes. Very fleeting and very temporary. The permanence is what we have within us, how we contemplate things. And this is in a form of meditation, which he goes on in the next chapter. Moreover, we have to be careful that we do not get attached to what gives us instant happiness. Because it's like a drug, we want to keep repeating that experience. And when it wears off, we get sorrow. So this is the cycle of sorrow and joy, sorrow and joy. And this is something that he says we do have a better alternative for. Alternative is when we slowly move away from these objects and look within us, contemplate within us, we can tap into much greater. And moreover, this happiness is never ending. It's within you, it's there all the time. We're not constantly looking for the senses to keep giving us doses of happiness. In another shloka, Sri Krishna ji gives another reason to stay away from the pleasure of the senses. One single contact of momentary happiness from any of these senses actually sow the seed for multiple sorrows. So we realize that this contact was very momentary and we want to keep repeating it. And this is what gives the turmoil in our mind. It is something that is just growing and giving this buzz and not the peace within us. So depending upon the strength of these desires, we create a vacuum which we are continuing to fill. And it gets connected with our mind, which rushes out to get this joy, without realizing that joy was within us, just reacting to something, and which is very momentary. And this cycle will keep going on and on, called samsara. Sri Krishna ji urges us to become wise people and realize that the sense contact is not the source of joy. So why does the mind keep rushing out for this time and time again into this material world? Sri Krishna ji answers there are still two major obstacles to our realization, and they are desire, the need to re-experience that sensory pleasure, and secondly, anger, which is a sorrowful circumstance. So both of these generate impulses within us that get the mind into the material world again and again. So even though the seeker cannot get rid of these angers and desires and all these other emotions that are going on, he can still check the impulses which has caused them. And once he starts looking at that and how to discriminate it, that is the road to this path. He's on to the right path. It just takes practice of. So for the mind to realize this eternal essence, it has to be very even keel. It has to be very stable. But all these impulses are what takes our mind out and rushes out to destabilize it. So these impulses are within us to keep seeking joy on a moment-to-moment basis. And unless we redirect this energy within ourselves, it'll keep upsetting our mind. It'll keep making us more agitated. Therefore, turning this impulse inwardly has to be done so diligently and intelligently. Just by cutting off our senses to something that's giving us temporary pleasure will not work. We must work towards the purification of our mind by performing the swadhyaya, which is reading the scriptures or doing the puja or any of the things that was done in the last chapter. As our mind finds peace and joy in this swadhyaya, it will automatically turn inwards and start detaching from these sensory objects, from this materialistic world. Sri Krishna ji now describes how one attains this eternal essence. It can be described in 3 words. First of all is antaha sukhaha, the person who finds bliss within. He does not expect anything from the outside world. Antararamaha, which is the elimination of all agitation and is completely at ease with himself. And thirdly, antarjyotihi. He realizes the seeker knows the eternal essence alone is the ultimate knowledge, the ultimate source of light. The analogy is that of the sun's reflection in the water. It's never going to be as bright as the sun itself. And the Karam Yogi feels the same, that the joy he has within him is going to be much stronger than any reflection he has on an outer object. And this deep identification with this eternal essence is what gives him the eternal essence himself. This is when the realization comes in. He attains the ultimate liberation or nirvana. And the person who's attained this is called a rishi. So a rishi is not somebody who's just wearing orange clothes with a beard. It's who's got the knowledge of the eternal essence. A rishi uses knowledge and discrimination and knows what is real and unreal. And he has 4 attributes. First one, freed himself from all mental impurities. Secondly, free from all doubts. Thirdly, complete self-control over his mind and senses. Fourthly, state of total non-violence. In the closing shlokas of the 5th chapter, Sri Krishna Ji points us to the topic of meditation. And meditation is the only way for the seeker to get fully established in the eternal essence. And this is something we'll find in chapter 6. Well, I hope you enjoy listening to the little bit of Hindu religion. This is Shashi Gosai, chapter 6 coming next.
Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. What a beautiful delivery about Lord Krishna himself. And I'd like to wish everybody Krishna Jamashtami. Blessings to everybody after learning about chapter 5 from the Bhagavad Gita from Shashi Gosai all the way in London, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up next from Lenasia, we have Narisha Singh, performing for us Sri Radha Govinda.
जय गणेश गणनाथ दयानिधि सकल विघ्न कर दूर हमारी मम बंदन श्री कारो प्रभु शरण चरण जय गणेश गणनाथ दयानिधि जय नंद लाला जय गोपाला जय नंद लाला जय जय श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बजले हर का प्यारा मही श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बचले हर का प्यारा नाम है प्यारा नाम है नंद लाला हर का प्यारा नाम है श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बचले हर का प्यारा नाम है मोर मुकुट सिर गल माला केशर तिल गल गावे केशर तिल गल गावे मोर मुकुट सिर गल माला केशर तिल गल गावे केशर तिल गल गावे वृंदावन में को नाच जाई हो सबको नाच जाई श्री राधे गोविंद मन बचले हर का प्यारा नाम है गोपाला हर का प्यारा नाम है नंद लाला हर का प्यारा नाम है श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बचले हर का प्यारा नाम है जय नंद लाला जय गोपाला जय नंद लाला जय गोपाला जय गोपाला जय नंद लाला जय गोपाला गिरधर नागर कहती मेरा सुरुख श्यामल बाया सुरुख श्यामल बाया
गिरधर नागर कहती मेरा सूरभ श्यामल बाया सूरभ श्यामल बाया
तुकाराम और नामदेव ने विठ्ठल विठ्ठल गाया हो विठ्ठल विठ्ठल गाया
श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बचड़े हर का प्यारा नाम है
गोपाला हर का प्यारा नाम है नंद लाला हर का प्यारा नाम है
श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बचड़े हर का प्यारा नाम है
जय नंद लाला जय गोपाला जय नंद लाला जय गोपाला राधा शक्ति बिना नव दर्शन पावे श्यामल दर्शन पावे
राधा शक्ति बिना न कोई श्यामल दर्शन पावे श्यामल दर्शन पावे
और गंगा राधे राधे काना बागी आवे हो काना बागी आवे
श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बचड़े हर का प्यारा नाम है
गोपाला हर का प्यारा नाम है नंद लाला हर का प्यारा नाम है
श्री राधे गोविंदा मन बचड़े हर का प्यारा नाम है
जय नंद लाला जय गोपाला जय नंद लाला जय 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 नंद लाला
गोपाला
जय नंद लाला जय 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 नंद लाला जय गोपाला जय नंद लाला जय जय
जय नंद लाला जय गोपाल
कृष्ण 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 कृष्ण
Goinda, Govinda, Nanisha Singh from Lenasia, ladies and gentlemen, praising and worshipping Lord Krishna himself right here on the Journey Show on Atom Bull TV. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the principles of the value system from the Tirukuru. Vanakkam, Namaste, Namaskaram, Sai Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Swamiye Saranamayappa, Goinda, Govinda. Welcome back, everybody. Yes, we are overrunning the show today, I can see it. Alright, as we always do this towards the end of the show, as we ran over time, but it's fine. We have come to the 108 principles of the value system from the Tirukkural, and today we're sitting at number 3. Let's check it out.
Today's lesson from the 108 Principles of the Value System from the Tirukkural is number 3. Cultivate truth.
Cultivate truth, meaning prepare and live by the truth. Plain and simple, straightforward. I hope you guys live by it. Well, coming up next, we've got, a lot of, services that we cannot perform or do ourselves. And we have Guru Indresan if you need to cover any of the following. If you need to do your Jandagam, known as your astrological readings, and your Panjagam, your Navagraha Shantis, your house prayers, your business prayers, your car prayers, your temple and hall weddings, your ceremonies like your 16, your Janda prayers, your auspicious Hawans, your Kumbha Abhishekams, you're welcome to contact Guru Indresan every single weekday, and please, via WhatsApp or call him on 081-325-0115. I'll give you the number again at 081-325-0115. Let's do this again tomorrow, same time, same place, right here in the Nature South on Actonville TV. It's for everyone. The Journey Show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll do this again tomorrow, part 6 of Geeta Week on Actonville TV, as we are going to be talking about chapter 6 from the Bhagavad Gita. From myself, Kimera, Heeralal, Vanakkam, Namaste, Namaskaram, Sai Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Swamiye Saranamayappa, Goinda, Govinda. Good night, everyone.